There's yet another reason to be excited about Fast X, as Vin Diesel recently dropped a tease by sharing an image of Dominic Toretto's 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. It's a car the protagonist last drove in Fast Furious 2009, and that means there is a good reason why it's making a return. Fans can once again expect Dom to risk his life by taking part in the most dangerous of missions. And since the franchise isn't ending just yet, he can be expected to survive, no matter how much he showcases his daredevilry. So far, there have been several instances where the Heist King truly should have died, but since it's Dominic Toretto, nothing bad happened. Escape from Mos Gioconde, Furious 7. After rescuing Ramsey, Dom finds himself surrounded by Mos Gioconde and his henchmen at the edge of a cliff. Surprisingly, he reverses off the cliff and crashes down below, only for him and Ramsey to come out unscathed. It's the best example of plot armor getting in the way of reality, since there are very few documented cases of people driving off a cliff and surviving. In a more believable scenario, Dom and Ramsey should spend months in the hospital, given how badly the car gets damaged. Interestingly, none of that happens because there is still so much for the two to do at the time the events occur. Owen Shaw Pursuit, Furious 6. Dom and his team chase Owen Shaw through a highway bridge after he steals a military tank. With Letty in danger of falling off, Dom crashes his Dodge Charger into the side of the opposite highway and launches himself into the air before catching her and landing on the opposite side. It's a scene simply meant to make one of the best movie couples look even cooler and paint Dom as a true tough guy. Since the physics of it all doesn't make sense, the expert driver claims he simply took a chance. Dom not only manages to avoid falling off the bridge, but he also lands safely on top of another car. But in real life, the probability of him being lucky twice is null. He could have either fallen off the bridge or landed on the tarmac instead of the car, two outcomes that would have left him dead. The retrieval of God's Eye, Furious 7. In order to retrieve the God's Eye software located in a chip in one of the most expensive Fast Furious cars, the Jordanian Prince's 2013 Lykan Hypersport, Dom decides to drive it out of an Abu Dhabi penthouse. With the brakes having failed, he ends up crashing through two skyscrapers but gets out in time just before the car falls to the ground below. As good a driver as Dom is, he is no pilot. There is no way for him to ensure the airborne car lands safely on the floor of each skyscraper instead of hitting a wall partition and crashing to the ground below. Still, that's what happens, and amidst all the mayhem, he and Brian still find time to take out God's Eye before hopping out of the vehicle. As such, no life is lost, and it's only the prince that gets $3.4 million scrapped off his net worth. Escape from Montequinto, Fast 9. While being chased by the military in Montequinto, Dom drives off a cliff and uses a cable to slingshot his car to the opposite cliffside. He thus makes a clean escape. The ninth installment is perhaps the most unrealistic one, and it's no surprise that very few critics liked it. Dom risks his life for nothing in this particular scenario, since getting captured by the military is a way more favorable outcome than falling down a cliff. And given the weight of the car, there are no guarantees that it would swing safely to the other side. There are also no guarantees that the cable is strong enough. But this happens at the beginning of the movie, so Dom has to stay alive. Cuban Street Race, The Fate of the Furious. To To prevent a loan shark from taking his cousin's car, Dom challenges him to a race in a 1950 Chevrolet Fleetline dubbed one of the slowest cars in the world. While at it, the car's engine catches fire, but Dom manages to reverse speed all the way to the finish line before jumping out. A speeding car with a burning engine would definitely blow up any second, but none of that happens, allowing Dom to not only complete the race but also beat someone who is driving a faster car. Dom never gets consumed by the flames either, which ought to be increasing given the speed at which the wind is blowing through the car. But if Dom dies in Cuba, Cypher becomes useless, so that doesn't happen. Dom vs. Deckard Shaw, Furious 7. Dom quickly drives after Deckard Shaw when he notices him at Han's funeral. In an underground tunnel, the two decide to drive their cars toward each other and crash, only for them to walk out unscathed. The scene, which makes little sense, counts as one of the hilariously badass things Jason Statham is known for. Even more ridiculous is that the two men aren't too tired or injured to fight. They simply straighten their necks and go at it. A better option would have been for the two men to simply step out of their cars and fight. Train heist, Fast 5. To avoid being captured by FBI agents during a train heist, Dom and Brian decide to drive their 1963 Chevrolet Stingray Grand Sport off a bridge. They then jump off it before landing in the water, which is several miles below the bridge. A Quora user explains that when you jump into the water from high altitudes, your body reaches terminal velocity, which is 120 miles per hour for the human body. For this reason, hitting the water would feel the same as hitting concrete. But this isn't just a Fast Furious crime. Many movie directors are guilty of making it seem like it's much safer to hit the water than land. Stopping Jakande, Furious 7. Yet another Jakande scene sees Dom launching his car at the secondary antagonist's helicopter before crashing to the ground. Everyone believes Dom has died, but as soon as Letty tells him she has regained her memory, he wakes up. Colliding with a helicopter before crashing to the ground are both equally dangerous scenarios that would leave anyone dead or badly injured. But love has to win, so Dom miraculously regains consciousness in order to ensure a happily ever after tale with Letty. To add to the unrealistic nature of the scene, Dom happens to be carrying a bag of grenades, which remain intact until Dom is safe. Russia Chase, The Fate of the Furious. One of the best Fast Furious villains, Cypher, sends a heat-seeking missile after Dom in Russia as he is trying to prevent her from completing her mission. Interestingly, he diverts it to a submarine and still avoids getting caught up in the explosion. Since Dom hasn't moved too far away when the explosion happens, there would be melancholy but no shock if he gets caught up in it. But once again, Dom's death makes no sense within the context of the franchise, so he walks away whereas Cypher fails in her quest to trigger World War II. Oil tanker heist, Fast Furious. As the crew robs an oil tanker in the Dominican Republic, a tank, Dom finds himself in trouble when the tanker falls, and the tank comes hurtling towards his car. Surprisingly, he manages to maneuver his way through it, avoiding a collision. Logically, the oil tank ought to explode as soon as it detaches from the vehicle. Furthermore, it's highly unlikely that an oil tank will burn on the outside without exploding, but that's what happens here. Consequently, Dom gets to drive safely away before any harm comes to him.